The Memphis Grizzlies season is essentially over. After blowing a 29-point lead in Game 3 after Ja Morant got hurt on this scary fall against Lu Dort, there are now so many questions in Memphis, most of them revolving around Ja himself. What does his future look like in Memphis? Where exactly do they go from here? This is just a weird situation. But first things first, we have to discuss this play right here, because the entirety of the conversation around Game 3 revolves around, was this a dirty play by Lu Dort? There are plenty of people that are bringing up past examples of things they don't like about what Lu Dort has done, and the conversation comes down to, was this a dirty play? To me, it's just an unfortunate combination of factors that lead to Ja falling and Ja getting hurt. It looks to me like if you go frame by frame, Dort is guarding Scottie Pippen Jr. on the break, then he realizes Ja's behind him, he follows the pass, goes to turn around, and he slips, and if you freeze it right here, when Ja's about to take off, Lu Dort's like parallel to the ground, so I don't really know what he's supposed to do other than, I guess, try to get out of the way, but he slips, tries to kind of contest the shot, ends up undercutting Ja, but I don't think it was intentional. I don't think Lu Dort turns around and tries to tackle Ja Morant's legs, and this is just the way that Ja plays. He's a 2-foot jumper, he wants to try and dunk on everybody, and sometimes you're going to hit the ground hard. I hope that he gets healthy. It's an unfortunate situation, but to me, that's what the conversation is going to be about. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of people that disagree with me, but it looks like it was just unlucky, it was unfortunate, and hopefully Ja is okay and is healthy. And really, this is an interesting pivot point in the conversation in terms of the future of Ja in Memphis, because one of the main concerns you have with him, and arguably the main concern you have with Ja, is the injury stuff. With as much attention as some of the off-the-court stuff gets, and even some of the on-the-court stuff gets, whether it be his lack of development from three-point range, some of the weird celebrations that the league has punished him for, whether you think that stuff is right or not, some of the social media stuff over the last couple of years, everything that's really happened to Ja over the last 2 years, since he won Most Improved, since he became an All-NBA caliber player, a lot of the negative stuff people have focused on, some of those other issues. But to me, the number one concern, if you're trying to build your basketball team around Ja Morant, if you're the Grizzlies looking at the situation, trying to figure out where do we go from here, is Ja a focal point, a franchise guy for us, it comes down to the injuries. When you look at games played, especially over the last couple of years, but really throughout his career, he's always missing between 20 and 25 games. And I don't think it's a coincidence when you consider the way that he plays. I love the way that Ja Morant plays, but it's also a similar way that Russell Westbrook played once upon a time. He's had some injury issues, although I think arguably he's been way more durable than anybody would have expected him to be. Even someone like Derrick Rose, like they have that style of where they just put a lot of pressure on the lower half of their body. They're attacking the rim all the time. They're hitting the floor a ton. And unfortunately, I think that's just going to cause a bit of an early breakdown for Ja physically as he gets towards the end of his career. That has been a theme for that play style of player throughout the history of the league. And I don't think Ja is any different. And that is a big decision for Memphis in terms of how much do they want to account for that as they move forward with their team. Because really the future of the Grizzlies is very, very interesting. You've got Ja and Desmond Bane both signed long-term. You've got Jaren Jackson Jr. on a really great value contract, but he's a 2026 free agent. You've got Aldamo's a 2025 restricted free agent who was good for them this year. Kennard's a 2025 unrestricted free agent. And really, they could just run it back next year because other than Aldama, who I assume they'll retain in restricted free agency, they're not risking losing a ton of rotation guys here, and you could just chalk this up to a weird season. You got rid of your coach a couple of games before the playoffs. Maybe you think this new coach is the guy. He can figure it out once he gets an entire offseason under his belt, and it's clear even before the year, they probably wanted to move on from Taylor Jenkins. They made a lot of changes underneath him and the coaching staff, and so they're probably thinking, our roster is solid. The front office is thinking, we've done a good job building the team. The coach just needs to do a better job of coaching them, and realistically, they're just going to bring all their guys back. One of the issues for them, though, is the fact that Jaren Jackson's a 2026 free agent, and it doesn't really make sense with the extension rules for him to sign an extension this offseason, so he's probably going to go to free agency in 2026, and you would hope that he would be retained and he would come back. And really, that comes down to a couple of things. One, how much do you really want to pay him? Two, is it just a guaranteed max? Three, is he actually going to come back? And four, if he does come back, where are you going with a Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. core? It was a weird season for Bane where he's so good. He was so good at the beginning of his career and just looked like he lost confidence at times. This season, Ja really didn't look all that comfortable coming back from just playing 9 games the year before, really until the end of the season where he really started to turn it on. And I think Jaren Jackson's been their best player the entire season, but wasn't as good once they changed coaches, and maybe the philosophy there is just different than whatever Taylor Jenkins had in mind for Jaren Jackson. And the combination of those three guys, I think it's pretty easy to tell doesn't put you in the top 4, top 5 of a very strong Western Conference. All those guys are very good, different levels of good, but none of them are, top 7, top 8 guys in the league that you really truly need at the center of your team to try and push for a title. And the Ja situation just continues to be weird and continues to hang over their heads, because if there is a guy that you think could get to that top 7, top 8 level, it would be Ja. But it's just been a weird couple of years for him. And it's strange where they're at now, because it feels like the future is very uncertain. You got rid of your coach. Jaren Jackson's a free agent. You don't really know what's going to happen with Ja long-term injury-wise. You've got Desmond Bane on a contract that you could argue is too much for him and isn't a great value. And that's strange, because I've generally thought of the Grizzlies as an organization, as a franchise, as very smart and very stable. And right now, things feel very unstable in Memphis, even though their record in the regular season was good. It's just a really tough Western Conference. And over the past couple of years, even when healthy, the Grizzlies just have always kind of fallen flat in the postseason, kind of fallen below expectations once you see what this roster looks like in the playoffs. And I think they thought they changed that over the last couple of years, whether it be with the Marcus Smart trade, whether it be with bringing in someone like Zach Edey, the development of Desmond Bane. They had Jalen Wells this year, who was really, really good as a role player for them. GG Jackson was good a year ago, even though he had a lost season pretty much this year. And this is the team, but they continue to try to change things around, and it doesn't seem like any moves they make around the core guys that they have really ever worked for them, whether it be Marcus Smart, whether it be getting rid of and basically scapegoating Dillon Brooks, whether it be now having a new coach, whether it be bringing in Zach Edey. Nothing has really worked around the core of those guys. Now, granted, they're still really young, and it's only really been small sample sizes of everybody being healthy at the same time, but you could also argue that one of the reasons why they are where they are is because of the guy that they just fired in Taylor Jenkins, when it comes to him developing the players, when it comes to how well he was able to get value out of some of these guys that were picked, later on in the first round, guys like Desmond Bane, guys like Jalen Wells. And I think that development piece is being understated in place of the assumption that whatever coach they get now moving forward is going to be better in the actual games. And to me, really, their options just aren't that great. They've had their moments of being aggressive and trying to get the guy that they think is the missing piece. Over the last couple of years, they've clearly felt like they need that high impact role player wing to connect their roster between Ja, Bane, and Jaren Jackson. They made big trade offers for OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, a ton of first round picks to try to get both those guys. They were unsuccessful in getting either. Even going back to, moving around in the draft to get someone like Zaire Williams, they clearly have felt like they need that connecting piece, and they just haven't been able to make it happen. Even though a couple of years ago, it seemed like maybe they were moving towards something special with this young group, they just haven't been able to take that final step. And whatever happens for the Grizzlies moving forward, all really does just revolve around Ja. Like, you can talk about changing around the roster, but if Ja doesn't improve and he doesn't stay healthy, nothing really matters. They keep saying publicly that they are not trading Ja, and frankly, I don't blame them. He still is their upside piece. As good as Jaren Jackson is, as good as Desmond Bane can be, when Ja is right, he's the all-NBA guy on the roster. He's the guy that is the focal point of your offense. And again, as I mentioned in the intro, I think a lot of people were focusing on this weird villain personality that he's taken on the last couple of years. The bigger thing for me is the injuries. He played just 50 games this year, 61 or less games in 4 straight seasons, including just 9 games played last year. And no matter what happens with Ja, no matter what they decide, that's not helping them either way. Either he's not on the floor so they can't count on him, or he's not on the floor so they can't get good value out of him if they did decide to trade him. So realistically, the most likely outcome here is the Grizzlies are going to run it back. That's just going to be their option. They need a bounce back year from Desmond Bane. They need to try to find their wing of the future, like they tried to find with Zaire Williams, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges. Wells is really good, and they were certainly missing him in the playoffs, but they probably need more than just that. And they still have a core of 3 guys that are 26 and under, a good front office with an eye for back of the roster talent, and they can develop these guys, or at least they could under Taylor Jenkins. And whether they keep this coach, find a new guy, it's clear that there is still some upside in Memphis. And I think that's what they're counting on. I wouldn't expect massive roster changes. I wouldn't expect a Ja Morant trade. What I would expect is they think the coach was the problem. If the new coach is great, they're probably going to look way better next year, even with pretty much the same roster. And if he's not, then they just got rid of a coach that helped them develop most of their core, and then they could be looking at a reset the following offseason, an offseason in which Jaren Jackson currently does not have a contract with the Memphis Grizzlies. So some scary things happening in Memphis, not just with the Ja Morant fall, but just in general, a lot of questions to figure out for the Grizzlies.